The top story at this hour, Sonia Gandhi stays as chief. The Congress decides in a 4-hour post-mortem of its election debacle. Sonia Gandhi will continue as the party president. This was decided after a mammoth 4.5-hour meeting this evening amidst demands of a change in leadership in view of the party's disastrous performance in the recently held state polls. But the CWC has reposed faith in Sonia Gandhi's leadership. She has been asked, though, to effect organizational changes.
Happened in the working committee, and working committee unanimously accepted a statement which I am going to read out. The recent assembly election results of 5 states are a cause of serious concern for the Indian National Congress. The party accepts that due to shortcomings in our strategy, we could not effectively expose the misrule of BJP state governments in 4 states and overcome the anti-incumbency in the state of Punjab in the short time after effecting a change of leadership. Congress party represents the hope of millions of Indians against political authoritarianism prevailing in the country today, and the party is fully conscious of its immense responsibility. The CWC expresses its gratitude to millions of Congress workers and leaders across the 5 states who work tirelessly for the party and its candidates. While humbling accepting the electoral verdict of the latest round of assembly elections, the Congress party assures its workers and the people of India that it will continue to remain a vigilant and vibrant opposition. Congress party will fully prepare to face the electoral challenges in the election-going states in 2022 and 2023, as well as in the Lok Sabha election 2024. CWC unanimously reaffirms its faith in the leadership of Srimati Sonia Gandhi and requests the Congress President to lead from the front, address the organizational weakness, effect necessary and comprehensive organizational changes in order to take on the political challenges. And CWC also decided to have a detailed deliberation of the party strategy and way forward in the upcoming elections in 2022, 23 and 24. A Chindan Shivir of the senior leaders will be held immediately after the current parliament session. Before the Chindan Shivir, the CWC will meet once again to discuss the matters to be taken up in the meeting, including the organizational changes and the strategies. Honorable Congress President will immediately take up the immediate correction measures to revamp and re-strengthen the organization. This is what we decided today's working committee.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया महासचिव संगठन श्री केसी वेणुगोपाल का। आदरणीय साथियों, बहुत संक्षिप्त में अगर मैं ये कहूँ, जैसा वेणुगोपाल जी ने बताया, आज लगभग 5 घंटे तक कांग्रेस कार्य समिति की बैठक अखिल भारतीय कांग्रेस कमेटी के इस प्रांगण में हुई।
All right, so let's go across now to Sunil Prabhu, who was monitoring this meeting. Sunil, a sense of deja vu, a marathon meeting at the end of which, faith and confidence is reposed in the top leadership, and the party is asked to effect organizational changes.
That's right, Sarah, but first I must say that what we said yesterday, Sonia Gandhi in that opening remarks offered and said very categorically, to quote a source at the CWC, in which she said that that if the party feels all 3 are ready to resign. So it's in that context that what we had reported yesterday has been reaffirmed. Of course, there was a denial by the Congress party, but the Congress President, Sonia Gandhi, making that opening remarks, wanting people to be free and frank, and that is the reason for why we had this marathon meeting. It's a marathon meeting in which there will be another Congress Working Committee to decide the agenda and the focus in terms of what organizational changes should be done, which will be held immediately after the current Parliament session. The focus, of course, is on another Chintan Shivir, and then, of course, major changes within the party that need to be done on an early basis so as to be able to ensure that the party can be found fit and ready to take on the BJP and the RSS, as they put it today, saying it is only the Gandhis who can do so. So it's in that context that the meeting has reaffirmed the faith on Sonia Gandhi.
All right. But Sunil, you're saying it was a free and fair and frank discussion for 4 hours, but there were only 3 G23 members, Anand Sharma, Ghulam Nabi Azad and Mukul Wasnik, in this meeting?
That's right. And Mr. Anand Sharma as well as Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad speaking point to point on what they believe is required to be done to strengthen the party. They made their points loud and clear, and it was appreciated. They also said that they have been fighting for the Congress party as they have from within, unlike others. And they made it clear that don't extrapolate what is being reported. But it's in that context that they did speak, all of them. And not only them, there were others who were very honest in their approach. I don't want to take their names, but the list is known to everybody in terms of what they believed was an important deliberation, and that's the reason for why they went ahead with that decision. So clearly the focus on having a free and frank discussion on this important issue.
So Sonia Gandhi will continue as the party president. So Sunil, what happens then to those polls, internal polls that were on the agenda to advance to select a new party chief? So is that going to happen? Has that been advanced? Does it stay in September?
So just that a caveat, Sarah, that Sonia Gandhi will continue as Congress president till the organizational elections are held. Okay. The organizational elections they are going to have a Chintan Shivir to see how the party can be strengthened at the grassroots level. So that will be slightly delayed in terms of how it goes forward. But definitely they would like to have a vibrant Congress. So in that context, there will definitely be some attempts to ensure that entire process gets unfolded as fast as possible. But it's just not going to be Congress president-centric. They want to have certain organizational changes, and that's the reason why the Congress Working Committee will meet after the Parliament session to resolve these issues.
Okay, so lastly, Sunil, who was responsible for this Congress performance in this election then?
Well, everybody is responsible in the party. Sorry?
Sorry, go ahead.
I didn't get... Everybody is held responsible, as you can see. It's a sense, as you said, deja vu. It's a sense of, as I was asking a CWC member, is it old wine in a new bottle? He says, no, you'll see very soon new wine in new bottles. So I'm hoping to see that day in the Congress party, but definitely the fact is, for a common observer, it is definitely something that we've heard before. But hopefully this time round, drastic changes will take place, because if the party has to exist, has to take on not only the BJP and the RSS, but also the Aam Aadmi Party, as well as other regional parties, it will have to stay relevant by making huge changes within the party structure.
And Sunil, before I let you go, we're getting some reports that Mr. Surjewala has said that members of the party wanted Rahul Gandhi to be president. Is that, what can you tell us about that?
Sorry?
We're told here, Sunil, we're hearing here that Mr. Surjewala has given a statement where he says that the party or members of the party wanted Rahul Gandhi to be made party president.
Well, in this deliberations, definitely there were suggestions, starting, of course, from the Rajasthan Chief Minister himself, Mr. Ashok Gehlot, before the meeting, saying that Rahul Gandhi should take control and lead the party. But ultimately, as the resolution pointed out, it reaffirmed its faith till the next organizational elections. Sonia Gandhi should continue as Congress President, have a Chintan Shivir, discuss a whole host of issues, and then go ahead with the organizational elections after that.
All right, Sunil Prabhu reporting there. Thank you so much for all those details. All right, so the Congress's top body meets. Gandhi Loyalists outnumber the dissenters. Is this old wine in a new bottle? Will anything change? Joining us now, Supriya Shrinate, National Spokesperson of the Congress, Karuna Gopal, BJP leader and National in charge of policy and research of the BJP's Women's Wing. We have Raghav Chadda of the Aam Aadmi Party, Tausif Ahmed Khan, political analyst who supports the TMC, and Aarti Jairath, senior journalist. First to you, Supriya Shrinate, you heard Sunil Prabhu there. I asked him that question, so who was responsible for the Congress's performance in these elections? And he says, everybody is responsible. So everybody responsible, but nobody really responsible in the end?
Well, first up, I'm a little surprised that not only did my good friend Sunil Prabhu get the story wrong yesterday, he was bold enough to try and justify it on air today. So the story that Sunil did put out yesterday about resignations was incorrect, and I want to place it on record. No, I place it on record that it was incorrect. He could stand by any story that he puts out. I'm not getting into combat with you on that. As far as the CWC is concerned, I agree with the fact that elections are not lost because of one person. Elections are lost collectively by the party. Whether it is UP or whether it was Goa or Uttarakhand, we collectively failed to win an election. We collectively failed to articulate to the people what we wanted them to vote on. I don't think it was just one general secretary or one AICC in charge or one observer. We failed to impress upon the people that they should vote for us instead of voting for the BJP, and I think that's collective responsibility. I agree with that. As far as the organizational elections are concerned, that's already in the pipeline. The membership drive is very much on. To my understanding, and what I'm picking up right now is that these elections could well be advanced, and there is a clamor for Rahul Gandhi to take charge of the Congress party as president. Because the reality is he sets the discourse for the Congress party, and there is a clamor in our cadres, there's a clamor within our workers to take this charge. I also want to just take the last 10 seconds and put on record this narrative that is being built around that how one party can replace the Congress and be the principal opposition and the big challenger to the BJP. Just put the numbers of MLAs all across the country on board. The BJP has 1443 MLAs and the Congress is second with 753. It's All India Trinamool Congress with 236 MLAs and everybody else trails behind. You really think that people with 4% vote share or 5% vote share can replace a national party with 23, 33, 34, 40% vote share in states? I think it's being a little foolhardy, but that's okay. These narratives do get built around elections. I agree. It's been a disappointing result, but I'm reasonably certain that we will re-strategize and refocus. And there will be significant changes made in days to come.
All right, I'll get to that in a bit. In fact, I'll put that question across to Raghav Chadda of the Aam Aadmi Party, who has very different views from you. But before that, Aarti Jairath, come in over here. It is a joint responsibility of everybody in the party, says Supriya Shrinate, and that there is a clamour in the cadre for Rahul Gandhi to be president. Then why does not Rahul Gandhi respond positively to this clamour? And then, or is nothing going to change?
I think you've said it, Sarah, in your the last bit of your sentence. I frankly don't think anything's going to change. Look, I mean, yes, okay, we can talk about collective responsibility, but ultimately the buck stops with the leadership, doesn't it? It stops, with the Gandhi family. And, Sonia Gandhi is formally the president, but we know that behind the scenes, all the decisions are being taken by Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Vadra. I mean, Priyanka was solely in charge of the UP campaign, and Rahul was in charge of, what happened in Punjab and Uttarakhand and Goa and so on. So, the buck stops there. And the fact is that they have failed to deliver. And, you know, I think really the answer to the Congress's problems lies in what happened in Punjab. Why does a party like Aam Aadmi Party, which is barely not even 10 years old, you know, how does it manage to completely sweep aside two traditional established parties in Punjab and win? And I think, you know, really that's what the Congress should introspect and see. What is it? The thing is that Aam Aadmi Party is offering a change. It's offering something new. It's
Correct.
exciting people because, you know, it's setting an agenda which, you know, is making people, which is enthusing people. The Akali Dal and the Congress are old, ancient parties which are very, very establishment, kind of fuddy-duddy, you know. And I mean, this is the problem with the Congress. The newest idea they have had in years is what Priyanka Vadra tried in UP, you know, about women.
Focus.
Yeah. And unfortunately, she came in so late that it didn't really take off, you know. And I mean, if she had been working on this for the last several years, maybe, you know, because at least it was a fresh, exciting new idea. But that's the newest idea they've had in the last so many years. So I think, you know, the Congress, it's looking too old, it's looking too fossilized, it's the same faces we're seeing. And when they make organizational changes, if they replace one K.C. Venugopal with Mukul Vasnik, I mean, that doesn't really make any big change in the Congress party.
All right. Karuna Gopal, the BJP would be watching the outcome of this meeting gleefully because the script really was in play before this meeting began. The Jharkhand Congress passed a resolution in support of Rahul Gandhi. Ashok Gehlot spoke out saying that there's no alternative. So really old wine in a new bottle, which suits the BJP just fine.
Well, first of all, let me say that we are not at all surprised of the outcome that has happened of today's meeting. The Congress party looks like, I mean, it is not even the party opinion that I'm giving you, it's at a personal level that I'm sharing, is that there is a certain kind of learned helplessness perhaps in the party, that they have resigned to the fact that it is the Gandhis that have to lead the party. The Gandhis can either lead the party to glory or the Gandhis can take the Congress to gallows. But it has to be decidedly the Gandhis. So we not at all surprised. And also it is just to look at the statistics. I mean, over the years, Congress has had perhaps the highest number of MPs, you know, 364 in 1952. Then it came down to 262, which is a fairly large number in 2009. And now it fell to 48. And all under the leadership of the Gandhis. Now looking at the statistics again, if you have to really look at the numbers, we've seen 222 people, electoral candidates, just moving out of the party, and as many as 177 MPs and MLAs defecting to other parties in the last few years. Now, the unfortunate thing perhaps is that the tallest of leaders, the iconic leaders like Himanta Biswa Sarma and Jyotiraditya Scindia, a whole bunch of them left the party. And whoever is retained in the party today, some of the real good leaders who perhaps are a part of the G23 are still left in the periphery. And they're not even being allowed to come into the mainstream. Again, the same
the sympathy or empathy coming in from the BJP for the Congress. Okay, but I want to bring in Supriya Srinath. You know, the BJP saying they expected this outcome. But really, what is the significance of this meeting, given that when we say that, you know, there's leadership is, we're reposing faith in the leadership, but there will be organizational changes expected. Why should one, what is the veracity of this statement, given that the Congress has yet to take note of the Ashok Chavan panel report? which was to analyze the reasons for the defeat of the May polls in Kerala and West Bengal.
No, that report has been laid before the CWC, and I don't know if you heard Mr. Randeep Surjewala say that emphatically, that has already been laid before the CWC.
So what did the report say?
Any cognizance said or not is taken. I am quite amused by the BJP spokesperson telling us and quoting us figures here of how many people have deserted. 19 of your allies have deserted you since the last elections. And guess why? Because your means are too dictatorial for them to stay with you. And some of your oldest allies, whether it's the Sena or the Akalis, they've deserted you, 19 of them.
But the BJP doesn't seem to need them now. They're winning on their own strength.
That's very good for them. I'm coming to answering the part on the BJP. It's all very well for me to sit here and do a discussion with NDTV and hear some experts tell me of how the Congress is fuddy-duddy. But guess what? When I go to my workers in a place like Maharajganj, and if I ask 10 of them, who is your leader? And they tell me Rahul Gandhi, I'm not going to come back and be fashionable and just to fit into this liberal conversation and say, no, we should get somebody else, we should get a fresh face. That's not happening, because I'm not going to be true to the Congress worker on the ground. The Congress worker on the ground believes Rahul Gandhi is his leader. And I'm not going to let the BJP dispute that for me. The BJP has a lot of issues to solve, and I will, however, say one thing. I am happy that they are winning elections, good for them. But winning elections is not what governance is all about. You are put in the office to deliver. Just because you win elections, the issues that we have raised have not gone away. Whether it's joblessness, whether it's price rise, whether it's crime against women. What are you talking about? I mean, those issues continue to plague the normal voter. You have been able to polarize the narrative and polarize the elections to an extent where religion has become tantamount. Please do not tell me about your delivery model.
Okay, fair enough. I want to pick up on what you said about Rahul Gandhi. That's what your poll workers say on the ground. That is a catch-22 for the party. You're led by a dynasty, but at the same time, that dynasty also is an easy target for the opposition, which in this case is the party in power. But I want to just also go into the point you raised, Supriya Srinath, in the beginning in your first answer about what role this leaves for the Congress in an opposition going forward to 2024. The Congress's disastrous showing in the assembly elections in these 5 states has led to a series, following on the heels of a series of poor results, really has raised questions about the road ahead for India's oldest party. I spoke just a little short while ago to Raghav Chadda for more on this, and I asked him, Raghav, the Congress has been clutching on to the position of the leader of the opposition camp. But given your tremendous victory in Punjab, is the AAP likely to now be more assertive when it comes to staking claim to this tag going forward in 2024?
The victory of the Aam Aadmi Party is a historical moment in Indian politics. It's a historical moment not merely because AAP has won another state, but it is because how a political party that came out of an organic people's movement today has won its second state and has defied these narrow political, sectarian agendas and risen above the standard run-of-the-mill caste politics, religion-based politics, etc. And it is also, this demonstrates that the Aam Aadmi Party is perhaps the fastest growing political party that this country has ever seen since independence. In fact, if my memory serves me right, it took the BJP 10 long years to win its first state. And that is despite BJP having the whole paraphernalia backing and the organizational support of the Jansangh from which it was born. It took the BJP a full decade to win its first state. And here you have the Aam Aadmi Party, which is less than a decade old, winning its second state, and that too a state as critical as Punjab. So I personally feel that the acceptability and the will to fight, apart from, of course, the fire in the belly that all of us have, all this combined that we have demonstrated in Punjab goes to show that AAP perhaps is now going to be the natural and the national replacement of the Congress party.
All right, so you're admitting that openly, and I'm sure AAP was watching the CWC closely in its outcome, because in whichever state the AAP makes inroads, especially like in Delhi and Punjab, it's been at the expense of the Congress. So you would prefer that, the status quo continues.
Look, I don't exactly agree with this assessment. A lot of people have been, making this commentary that, oh, it's only the Congress space that AAP is capturing in state after state, whether it's Delhi or Punjab. I don't agree with this. I don't agree with this because when you sit down with the polling booths and polling stations that we won, when you sit down with the list of seats that you have won, when you sit down with the voter list as to who voted for you and who didn't vote for you, etc., you will arrive at the conclusion that whether it was Delhi or it's Punjab, people across have voted for us. The Congress sympathizers, supporters have voted for us. The Akali Dal supporters, sympathizers, members have voted for us. The BJP and BSP voters have voted for us. Now let us try and understand Punjab. Shiromani Akali Dal, which is considered to be a political party of of those who follow the Panthik agenda, etc. Now even those followers of the Panth and who have been following Akali Dal and are diehard supporters of the Akali Dal have also moved away from Akali Dal and voted for the Aam Aadmi Party. Bahujan Samajwadi Party, which is considered to be a party of the Dalits, have also the Dalit Samaj, the Dalit community has dumped BSP and voted for the Aam Aadmi Party. And now when you talk of the BJP, which claims that it is the the sole repository of the Hindu vote bank, Hindus of Punjab have dumped BJP and voted for the Aam Aadmi Party. So basically what I'm trying to say is that cutting across political parties, voters, supporters, sympathizers, even members have voted for the Aam Aadmi Party. So it is incorrect to say that it is only the Congress vote bank that has come to us. It is the Congress space that we've captured. However, at the national level, I feel that since BJP is a formidable force, and with the Congress becoming weak and old, it is but natural that Aam Aadmi Party is going to be the principal challenger to the BJP, and Mr. Kejriwal is going to be the principal challenger to Prime Minister Modi. It is in that sense that I say that AAP is going to be the national and the natural replacement of the Congress.
2024 is still a ways away, but we have more state elections coming up, and in Goa, in the run-up to Goa, we saw, all those tectonic forces where parties in the opposition were not being able to align with each other. They went alone, which hampered the opposition unity. Votes got divided. Similarly, we're now hearing Congress leaders say that the AAP is the vote-cutting machine in poll-bound Gujarat. Does that argument still hold for you now, post your Punjab big win and the Congress's performance?
I am nobody to advise the Congress party. I don't think Congress party needs my advice. In fact, those who have been advising Congress party also seem to be frustrated because they don't listen to anybody's advice. I do feel that Congress is now at a position where they are beyond repair. And it is bad for the country, where the principal opposition party today is not in a position to even take up issues of public importance and challenge the government of the day. And therefore, I feel that, in a democracy, it is extremely important that we have a robust as well as a constructive opposition. That space is absolutely vacant. And we can't expect Rahul Gandhi or the Congress party to fill that vacuum simply because Rahul Gandhi is the easiest challenger for Prime Minister Modi. In fact, I think Mr. Modi considers Rahul Gandhi as his asset. Because in this fight that, one tries to portray of Modi versus Rahul, you always see that Prime Minister Modi has an upper hand and Rahul Gandhi is in no position to even challenge the Prime Minister, forget put up a fight. So therefore, I think that space is vacant, and it is only and only the Aam Aadmi Party and Mr. Kejriwal today that are in a position to capture that space. And God willing, we will most certainly do that, because at the end of the day, people are the best and the most discernible judges. And the people of Punjab have spoken that, wherever there is this, regular process of oscillation between one party and another, sometimes you have the BJP, then the Congress, and the BJP and the Congress, people are always looking for an alternative. Whenever you present people with an alternative, people choose that alternative. People believe in that alternative. Same thing happened in Delhi. You had a regular BJP versus Congress. The moment AAP arrived as a new kid on the block, people dumped both BJP and Congress and chose AAP. Similarly, in Punjab, it was a regular fight. The daily, every 5 years of musical chairs between Congress and Akali Dal. When AAP presented itself with a viable alternative, with a as a viable option, people dumped both these parties. Voters of both these parties dumped their respective parties and chose the Aam Aadmi Party. And therefore, I think there is a huge space that Aam Aadmi Party will now begin to capture and is going to be the principal challenger of the Bharatiya
All right.
Janata
Tausif
Party.
Ahmed Khan, political analyst who supports the TMC, there is a space, there is a vacuum to be filled, and the AAP is making a beeline for it. Mamata Banerjee was a giant killer, a third-time chief minister, but that was way back in May. This Punjab victory not only gives AAP the upper hand, they have the momentum to emerge as the alternative.
Well, Punjab is a story of Congress's debacle. You see, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So either Einstein was wrong or Congress has no appetite to dislodge BJP from power. It is as simple as that. Either Congress is only, contesting these elections only to, survive as long as a time comes when BJP dies its own death, and expecting that to happen soon. And I think that's a wrong calculation that the Congress is making, because time and again, Mamata Banerjee proposed an alliance with Congress. Even in Goa, she had proposed an alliance. After winning a Bengal election in May 2021, Mamata Banerjee called up Sonia Gandhi and had proposed an alliance, to form some kind of a platform where all the opposition parties can come together and take on a challenge, which is BJP, for the sake of country, not for the sake of, political survival, but for the sake of country. So people in Congress party has to, reach that level where they can think beyond Congress, where they can think of a greater cause that, okay, this is a time where we need to dislodge BJP and we have to compromise at some point, whether it is compromise of changing the leadership, or if it is a compromise of forging an alliance with regional parties. They cannot be, live under a fear that a time will come when they will lose even all the states, they will become a political dinosaur or whatever.
All right.
Sooner or rather that will come, unless you put up a fight, unless you take the challenge head on. And that requires you to act differently.
Okay, so Priya Srinath, respond. Time to smell the coffee, time to realize that you can't repeat the same formula again and again and expect a different outcome. Time to understand that perhaps you have to be a junior partner in a strong regional alliance, says the TMC.
I don't understand what you're trying to insinuate here. So the TMC in Goa, and I think Tawfiq is a supporter, may not know, we actually reached out to the TMC before. They were on a high horse because they were coming out of a win. They did not want to talk. By the time they came back, it was too late. Now, the TMC has a 5.2% vote share in Goa. We have a 23% vote share in Goa. The Aam Aadmi Party in Uttarakhand had a 3.3% vote share, where we had a 37.9% vote share. What do you want us to do? I really fail to understand. Do you think with a 37.9% or a 23.3%, we should go begging to these parties and say what? Because we did try to form an alliance in Goa. Mamata Banerjee's party was not playing ball. And by the time she came back, it was too late. Candidates had been announced. The same thing in Uttarakhand. What was AAP's motive? Whether it was Goa or Uttarakhand, and because Raghav Chadda was recorded with you, I would have wanted to ask him this question. And maybe a sympathizer can answer this question for me. What was AAP's motive in Goa or in Uttarakhand? Were they trying to defeat the BJP, or were they actually trying to hurt the Congress? Because if you see the vote differential between the BJP and the Congress in Goa, it amounts to the numbers put together of AAP and TMC. And if you look at the similar vote share in Uttarakhand, the 7% vote differential between us
right.
and the BJP, the AAP and the BSP act together. So all that I'm asking is, what do these parties want us to do? You really expect us, with a 38% vote share, to start playing junior ally? That's being politically incorrect, is it not, Sarah?
All right. Aarti, I want to give you the last word on this. We're completely out of time and making it very difficult for you. In 30 seconds, a quick answer. But Supriya, is that the catch-22 for the Congress? Supriya says the party cadre clamours for the Gandhis. They are really the only pan-national brand for the party, the most identifiable symbol of the Congress. There's no other Congress leader who can have a national level, all India, mass interest, recognition, face value.
See, I don't think the problem of the Congress is, I don't think the problems of the Congress would end if they were to replace the Gandhis with somebody else. Because the point is that whoever comes in place of the Gandhis, is he going to be allowed to be an independent party chief, or is he going to be a puppet with the Gandhis pulling the strings from behind? So, it's not a question of removing the Gandhis and putting somebody in. The problem with the Congress is it looks too old and it looks too fossilized. And unless it can pump in new energy, it can come up with something new that, catches the imagination of the voter, I'm afraid the Congress is doomed to just fade into irrelevance. And, that is what it really needs to do. When it introspects, it needs to find a slogan that is going to catch the imagination of the voter in India, not just to criticize the Modi government and the BJP, but to offer an alternative in a positive manner.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us on the big story of the day. This is not the last word on this, certainly.